Welcome to Harmonium LA, the podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Heedy Gandolfi, emotional wellness expert, founder of Harmonium LA, and published author. The world needs healing now more than ever. My goal is to bring you inspiring conversations, tips, and techniques that will help you build a sustainable healing toolkit. The Harmonium LA podcast is the only resource you will need to slow down, stop searching, and start healing.
Mike, hi, good morning, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. We're absolutely thrilled for you taking time out of your unbelievably hectic schedule to come talk to us about you, your journey, and just the amazing things that you're doing in the world right now. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. I think it's incredible what you're doing. So many people are in pain right now in different ways. And so, platforms like yourself to help them, give them hope, is amazing. So happy to be part of that.
Amazing, thank you. So yeah, we were just chatting earlier, and it's 2 years ago since we first met actually, and we met because you came to have some harmonium. Obviously you have been working through so many of your own issues, health and healing wise, over the past few years, and so you've been trying all sorts of different techniques and modalities and holistic ways of healing. That's what your journey has been the last few years, has been searching and trying to find ways to heal what you went through, and so having a harmonium session was part of that. So we met that way. And I remember at the time, it's almost 2 years ago, but you were at that point, you were just in the process of rebranding Soul CBD, which now, of course, has just absolutely accelerated through the roof. In the last 2 years, it's been phenomenal to see where you have gone from to where you are now, and how the products have expanded, not only in the amount of products within the range of, different products that people can use to help them with their anxiety, depression, and pain, but just to how many people, the community that you are building as a result of that, and your mission to now turn your pain and your healing journey into moving forward to help other people. I think it's just phenomenal. It's been amazing to watch. So I'm really excited for you to come talk about that today.
Yeah, thank you. Soul CBD was started by my sister and I about 3 years ago now. And so it really developed not even as something we thought would really grow to the size that it has. It developed because we fell in love with CBD and the benefits of plant medicine, really. And so for me, I was a professional athlete for 10 plus years and had so many injuries, had a long, phenomenal career, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But what came with that was a lot of pain. So with that, I started searching high and low for all different types of modalities, nutrition, supplements, mindset. I'm a guinea pig basically. And so I'm constantly in search of, things that will alleviate my pain. And CBD was one of them. And I loved it so much. And everything I was taking was non-THC because I was still getting drug tested before, by WADA and USADA before big boxing matches that I had. So, falling in love with CBD in general, and just learning about how important nutrition and plant medicine is incredible. And I always say that it wasn't, it was a piece of the puzzle. It was a big piece of the puzzle. There's never one thing that is the end all be all, at least for me, or people that have autoimmune issues like myself, or have chronic pain or anxiety or whatever it is. But finding those different modalities, everything from nutrition to mindset to physical modalities, and just turning over every single rock is so important. And so that was kind of the birth of this company. And now I'm so grateful to say we've helped thousands of people. We have a whole different array of products, from tinctures to gummies to sleep caps. But I think no matter what, when you calm down your nervous system and get out of that fight or flight and out of that sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic, which CBD really helps doing, you find that so many other areas of the body starts to get into homeostasis and begins to heal. So it kind of has this top-down effect that we've seen with not only myself, but a lot of customers. But just really grateful to help other people get out of pain. And it's been a really fun ride.
And it's been quite that for you. Honestly, like you say, let's just go back, let's take it back a bit, because you've had, like you say, a phenomenal career. As a professional athlete, as a professional boxer, fighting in front of thousands, millions of people in some of the biggest arenas in the world, and doing that for a good number of years. But just looking at how that affected your nervous system. I mean, I can't even imagine, talk about fight or flight, from being in the ring, and not only just physically, but emotionally, mentally as well, the mental agility and the preparation and the pressure that training and just way of being must have put on your nervous system. And then do you think that played a lot into it was 2 years, right? I mean, talk about that, share that story with us, because it's really inspiring and really interesting.
Yeah, I think that, the stresses, not only physically, but mentally, definitely could have been a catalyst for my autoimmune conditions and a lot of pain for sure. It's interesting as I look back now, I've retired about a year and a half now since I last fought. But I look back now and it's ironic that the thing I love the most in the world ended up hurting me, I think. I have broken ribs, broken noses, concussions, broken hand. And then I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease about halfway into my career. I was about 12-0, undefeated, on top of the world. As you mentioned, I was fighting in Madison Square Garden and Cowboy Stadium and having a big career. And then all of a sudden I started getting really sick. My body started shutting down. I spent 2 years in and out of hospitals and out of the ring. And I was later diagnosed with a couple of autoimmune diseases. One was ankylosing spondylitis. The other was lupus. Now, I sit here today, years later, and really don't associate with those diseases. Not to get too woo-woo, but I think that mentally, when you attach yourself to something like that, it ends up digging in more and more. So as I've learned more, I've started to disassociate from those diseases and just said that I have chronic conditions that I'm continuing to heal and get better. But so I went from, being in those hospital beds to, being on 8 different medications and really feeling hopeless and just depressed and completely addicted to painkillers. And it was the darkest time of my life. And I think it was that breaking point where I knew that 9 medications wasn't the answer. And I knew that I had to do something different to start to change. And so I started to dive into mindset. I started to dive into meditation, breath work, my nutrition. I started changing what I was eating, how I was eating it. I learned about CBD. I started doing IV therapy, ozone treatment, all these different modalities that I knew were low risk, high reward. And slowly but surely, I started getting off medication and I got back into the ring, and I did something that a handful of doctors said I could never do. And I ended up winning 9 more fights, fighting for multiple titles, a world title, my last fight. And so, I still deal with pain on a daily basis, but I think I've found different modalities that have started to help me and started to chip away and go from those hospital beds where I was at my sickest to, back in the ring and fighting. And now post-career, learning how to heal, learning how to find different ways to heal naturally. And it's a constant journey. I'm not going to lie. There's days I have flare-ups that I get really discouraged. I'm in a lot of pain and life is tough. But I think that through this process, I've learned of so many other people that have dealt with pain and how they've overcome it. And it's given me hope. And I think that one of the strongest tools that I ever found laying in those hospital beds and just diving in and reading stories and learning was hope. I think that when you're in pain, hope is one of the most powerful tools to get you out of pain. And for me, it really was reading and hearing stories of other people that had overcome things in their life. And so now I try to pass it forward while I'm still overcoming pain and these autoimmune diseases, to try to instill hope in people that felt like how I felt years ago when I felt hopeless and depressed and, felt like life wasn't worth living. And so, I'm grateful to be in a better place now. But as I said, it's a constant journey.
Oh, totally. And I think it's so right what you say. And I remember when you came in for Harmonium and you said to me, there is not just a single day when I am not in pain. There just is not a single day when I wake up and I'm not in pain. And even with, like you say, all of the different things that you've worked through. But I think a lot of that is more than anything is your mindset, because you weren't going to allow it to be you. It's like, this isn't how it's going to be. There is a better way. There has to be. And like you say, to have that hope. And it's so on point right now, I think, because especially with the last 12 months of COVID and everybody having to deal with something, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain or mental pain, we're seeing so much more people suffering on different levels. And I think having that hope and that inspiration and reminding ourselves it's not, it could be so much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so it's funny that there's a couple things I used to say before every single fight, right? So you're walking out of a tunnel and there's thousands of people and you're about to risk your life on stage and get hurt or embarrassed or whatever it is in front of millions of people on TV. It's a scary feeling as you're coming out, right? But the one thing I would always say is have fun, baby. It was like this mantra that I would say in my head or out loud as I'm walking in the tunnel and the camera's in your face. I'd say, have fun, baby. I learned to take that phrase from boxing to my life and healing. And what I mean by that is I now try to have fun, baby, as much as I can, because I've found that when you're laughing, when you're smiling, it makes pain much more manageable. And whether that's watching a stupid comedy on TV or being around people you love, those little things I started to do instead of constantly just sitting in my own misery. You know, it's interesting. You go through a breakup or you go through a sad time and you want to watch sad movies or listen to sad music. You can't do that when you're in pain. You have to switch that cycle of pain and kind of misery. And so that was one thing I learned was if I'm in pain, I'm watching Will Ferrell movies or I'm listening to a podcast that makes me laugh, or I'm forcing myself to like do things that make me laugh. And it ends up giving you momentum. And so that's another little thing that unfortunately and fortunately pain kind of taught me and helps me cope.
That's it, because it's shifting that energy, it's shifting that vibration, and it's taking you out of that space of, you know, sadness and fear and anger and you know, pain into that high vibration, you know, because laughter and joy is everything. And you know, it's like you say, I mean, I think you said that your dad said, you know, tomorrow's never guaranteed. You have to make today the best day because you just don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow. And I love it when you said, you know, you drive past the graveyard and you smile because you know one day you're going to end up there. I mean, that's what you say, right? And so
yeah,
have to make the most of every second. And so it is a journey and it is a process and it's finding ways to cope. And so for you, that was researching, listening, laughing, exploring, being curious about what else was out there for your journey to take you back out of the hospital, off the antidepressants, out of that state, back into the ring so you could go back and finish your career. And you did, you know, was it a world title that you did? Was it last year, a year before when you finished, before you retired?
Yeah, the end of 2019. It was really another really cool moment in my career. But yeah, you're spot on. I think it starts with the mindset of believing that you can get better and then working your way down with different modalities. And everybody's different, you know, and so one generic prescription pill may not help you. It may help somebody, but it may not. At least I love to tell people you have options, because when you're sitting there in a hospital room or in front of a doctor and all they want to do is write prescriptions and you're frustrated and you're apathetic because in 15 minutes they decided what's right for you instead of listening to how you're feeling, what you're eating, what your environment is like. You know, that whole system of the Western medicine has obviously helped us live longer, but I think we're sicker than ever. And so I just think people need to take health into their own hands and listen to their gut. You know, no pun intended. And that's really what started to help me get better. And as I said, I mean, it's a constant journey.
So talk about CBD. Let's talk about that, because obviously that's how you really started with this next step of your life and moving forward. So you came across CBD when you were doing your research. So talk about that, because there's so much, I think, stigma around it, and so many people aren't clear about what it really is and how it works and what it does and what it doesn't do. So why don't we just unpack some of that?
Absolutely. So I first started taking CBD, non-THC products about, I think in early 2017. For me, initially, I needed it because I had so much anxiety. And I don't know if that was because of, you know, the anti-anxiety meds I was on, the Humira, the painkillers, all the medication that maybe had side effects, but my anxiety started raising through the roof. I was having full-blown panic attacks where a couple times where I literally thought I was having a heart attack, and I'm, you know, a 29-year-old healthy, you know, young man. So I initially started taking it for anxiety and learning that what CBD does is it activates the endocannabinoid system, which is naturally occurring in all mammals. We've known about the endocannabinoid system for years. And what it does is it puts your body into homeostasis. So for a lot of people, it calms down your nervous system, helps you focus, kind of helps you relax a little bit too at the same time. And it started helping my anxiety massively. It wasn't until later I started learning that CBD also has anti-inflammatory properties as well. It helps a ton with inflammation. So, all these things are always interconnected, but it's such a beautiful molecule and plant. All of our products are derived from hemp. And just to take a step back, CBD can be derived from marijuana or it can be derived from hemp. And there's different cannabinoids throughout the plants. There's different terpenes. All of them have different effects. They can help you. But what's important is CBD has no toxicity, so you can't overdose on it. And that's something that I found extremely attractive, considering I could walk down to CVS right now and buy a bottle of Tylenol and overtake too many and kill myself. But with CBD, it has no toxicity. It's shown that on the liver. So I think that's a beautiful aspect of it. But we just found that it was something that was low risk, high reward. It helped a lot of people with anxiety and stress. And I think that anxiety and stress tends to be the number one killer of people. Most heart attacks happen on a Monday. That's crazy. And most men actually suffer from heart attacks because of all the stress they put on themselves and the fact that they're usually not vocal about it and letting go. So I think that there's different elements in this plant that are starting to calm down our nervous systems and help us. And so that's really what I discovered and why I decided to start the company.
And a lot of people get confused. They think, it's quite taboo still because they do associate it with cannabis and thinking that using the CBD products, are they going to get high? Is it going to affect them in that way?
Yeah, so it's important when you're looking at which products you're buying to figure out what's right for you. So I'm not here to demonize THC. So THC is the psychoactive element in the plant. THC is actually found in the hemp plant as well. It just has a much, much lower amount than the marijuana plant. So, THC has benefited a lot of people as well. It's just for me, especially as a professional athlete, getting drug tested, that was a no-no for me. And then even now, I don't tolerate THC well. I tend to feel hungover the next day if I take an edible or I smoke something with THC, but it does help a lot of people. So once again, I don't want to demonize it, but what's beautiful about CBD, CBN, some of the other cannabinoids is that it doesn't have a psychoactive element to it. So it won't get you high. And so when you're reading labels, make sure to see what you're buying. Is it an isolate, CBD isolate? Is it a broad spectrum or is it full spectrum? When you have full spectrum, you will have elements of THC in there under the legal amount. When you have broad spectrum, generally that's when the THC is taken out, but the other cannabinoids and terpenes are in there. And then isolate is CBD isolate, CBD only. So you're not getting any of the other cannabinoids or THC if that doesn't suit you. So it tends to be a little bit confusing and the industry still needs a lot of regulation, but it's important to read the labels and know where your product is coming from.
Yeah, because I think there's so much, especially with the government, right? They're so strict with their regulations and making sure that what you are producing is of such good quality, but you make sure of that, right? You're very involved with the process. You visit all of the fields where you produce all the products from, right?
Absolutely. I mean, all of our products are double third-party lab tested. So we literally take the third-party lab testing from our farms, from our manufacturers, and we test those as well. And we show, it's known as COAs, certificates of analysis. You've got to make sure, even if it's not Soul CBD, that you find a reputable brand that's showing COAs on every single product line. In those COAs, you can see there's no levels of pesticides, there's no heavy metals, and you have the amount of CBD in there that they say there are. Unfortunately, I think a recent study showed upward of 70% of CBD brands aren't properly reporting the amount of heavy metals, pesticides, or they're cutting corners for margins to make more money. So for me, this is something I was taking every single day. I'm giving to my family, my friends. Most important, I had to make sure that it was safe and it was effective. And that's something I stand by. That's something I'm super proud of. And there are other companies doing it as well. Unfortunately, there's just not that many doing it. But we are one of them. And my sister and I are proud of that.
Yeah. And so you and her got together. I mean, Angela is fabulous. I've met her and she's amazing and so inspiring. And so you decided let's do this, let's put this together, and let's create not only a product that's going to help to heal and to really help people with, you know, whatever it is they're going through, but also to build a community of other people supporting other people. And that's also huge. And I think that's something that's really sets you guys apart too, right?
Yeah, thank you. I think from the get-go, we've always said community first, brand second. That's been really important for us, and especially with Angie. She has such a vocal, amazing community of just badass women that are starting businesses or helping other people heal. And so, you know, she throws these amazing events where last year she had, I think, over 2,000 women come, or 2 years ago, rather, before COVID, 2,000 women come see her speak. So she's developed this incredible community that I think really launched the business, which I'm so grateful for and proud of her for. But we've really focused on what our community wants. And I think when we've done that, it's just succeeded because we go to our community and we say, what do you want next? What are your pain points, right? So every single product that we come out with is addressing a pain point. It's not about what are the margins. It's not about will this sell well in retail. It's about what does our community want? Okay, they're having trouble sleeping. How are they having trouble sleeping? And how can we help them address that pain point? So I think that's how more companies should come at it. It's a more empathetic way, and it ends up paying off in the end because you're helping your community and you're listening to your community. And I think that's important because now more than ever, community is vital for people's mental health.
And we're really not out of the woods yet. I mean, everybody thinks we're back to normal, but we're really not. I think honestly, it's really just starting, and I don't think we've seen the levels of how we're all really going to be affected by this. I mean, did you find during COVID that things really, were you really busy? Did that help with the business? Did you find yourselves excelling even more through that time?
I think we did because A, we're a direct consumer business, so we weren't in retail, and B, people are having more anxiety and pain, unfortunately, than ever. And so they were interested in all natural ways to help with the anxiety. I mean, turn on the news for 10 minutes and you think the world's going to end. So we did see growth in the business, but I think for us, me personally, and just my Soul CBD team members, everyone struggled. I mean, you're on Zoom calls all day, everything is remote. I think we missed that human connection, that human touch, and I still do. And we're not out of the woods yet, but I think that when we get to that point, it's so important for our mind, our body, our soul to connect physically in a real space, because this Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's not the same. And way too often, it's just hurting us, especially our young kids. I mean, we're seeing kids sicker than ever. So yeah, I mean, it's been good and bad, I guess, in a sense.
But that's, I think, one of the, like you say, is fabulous about your site is that when you go there, you're, you know, how can we help you? What is it that you're needing help with? And you have that list. Is it the sleep? Is it the anxiety? Is it the pain, you know, physical or emotional pain? And you can then pick and choose. And I think that's beautiful because people don't feel pressured. They can have that option. I mean, you have amazing things, like you said, like the bath bombs, you know, and you have now topical creams too, which I know I ordered for my son because he's been having issues with his knees, with his running. And so, you know, you have gummies and tinctures, all different options for people to kind of cultivate and create and really come up with their own unique kind of prescription, if you like, of products that are really going to help with that stress, with the anxiety, and to encourage people to take time out for themselves, to come up with something like a bath bomb, because again, it's that self-care. Take time away to calm the nervous system down so that you can really think about what you need to do next, what the next thing might be to allow, because, you know, like you say, listening to that gut intuition and allowing that to come through, because you've spent a lot of time now as well doing speaking events and motivational speaking through what you've learned yourself.
Yeah, well said. I need to hire you for PR. You're articulating it better than I can. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the key things we did on the website was make sure you click, you know, are you dealing with anxiety, inflammation, you need help with sleep, whatever that pain point is, that we have a product for you. And we have little rituals. For instance, you know, the tinctures or oils that are so popular right now, we have the best tasting CBD in the world. That's kind of something we stand by. So we use, you know, essential oils and, you know, different elements to give that awesome taste, because too often way too many products taste like hempy. And so we're very proud of that. But one of the rituals we do with the oils is we teach people about like box breathing, for instance. And I talked about breath work earlier, but For instance, one of my favorite breathwork sequences that I used to do before every single fight that I do now when I take a full dropper tincture of CBD. It's called 4-7-8 breathing. It was developed by Dr. Andrew Weil, who's a pioneer in this space, but it's very simple in the sense that you go through 3 cycles, and what you do is you inhale for 4 seconds through your nose, you hold for 7 seconds, and then exhale for 8 seconds out, right? So it's a form of box breathing that, and then repeat that maybe 2 to 4 times. But what they found is when you do this 4-7-8 cycle, it'll slow down your heart rate. It will bring your cortisol levels down. It'll take you from that sympathetic to parasympathetic. So that's something I've been doing for years as an athlete, and I find tremendous success with. And now we're starting to teach people that when you're taking CBD or you're taking before a bath or whatever your mode of relaxation is, maybe let's add in a quick 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes max of quick breath work to calm your nervous system down, to kind of prep you for that moment. And it ends up stacking on top of each other and getting more momentum.
And that's it. And it's just, like I say, 2 minutes every day, and just building on it and making it part of your daily routine. And the shifts that we see just by doing that, the breath is huge. And the mind always follows the breath, and if you can calm the breath, then you're going to calm the mind, and it takes you out of that fight or flight, digest, and it just changes everything. It changes the perspective, and it allows you to see things just in a completely different outlook. And that's so essential right now. So essential.
Yeah, it is. I think we're learning about the power of breath too. There's an incredible book called Breathe by, I think, James Nestor that I just recently read and is very popular right now. But whether it's the intense like holotropic breathing or just simply managing and understanding that calm breaths, throughout the day will help your nervous system. I think we're finding that there's so many things, whether it be breath work, CBD, meditation, that are free, that are all natural, that are, not super expensive and low risk, high reward. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because low risk, high reward is what, people should be striving for.
Absolutely. What would you say is your biggest lesson from the ring to being an entrepreneur?
I think it's funny. Boxing is just like entrepreneurship. I've gotten punched in the face, literally and figuratively. I've gotten knocked down in the ring in front of thousands of people and gotten back up. I think my biggest lesson, I guess, is just resiliency, is grit. That was ingrained in me, never to give up, never to quit, that ideology at a very young age. And whether I was getting punched in front of thousands of people or, darkest times dealing with autoimmune disease, I think that resolve and that grit that I had and continue to have really saved my life, if I'm going to be completely frank. And so that's one thing boxing has taught me, jumping into entrepreneurship, is that get ready to get knocked down, but get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8, right? I think that's the famous saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And to translate that into healing, it's exactly the same. Don't let it beat you. There's always a way. There's always something out there that you can pull from, to take from, that can help you, even if it's just a tiny bit, but it's just that consistency every single day of taking those baby steps, which ultimately, make the bigger steps. And, what's the big vision then now moving forward with Soul CBD and the company? What's your vision for yourself, man?
Yeah, I just want to grow the company. Like I mentioned, we're helping thousands of people. And I think the vision now moving forward, hopefully coming out of COVID, is starting to educate people more. That's really it. I want my sister and I and Soul CBD, not just to be a product company, but to be an education company. And for us to educate people on how to get healthy in a natural way, whether that's with CBD or without. I see us more as a pain management company in a sense. And so what I want to do is start getting out, telling my story a little bit more, trying to help people if I can, using amazing platforms like yourself to connect with human beings and start to, go to more events, and when things open up and connect with people and help them get out of pain. So that's kind of the vision right now. It's not clear as in terms of I want to help this many people or that many people. It's more of let's just keep growing. let's keep changing the narrative on CBD and the cannabis industry in general to make it less taboo and teach people that there are all natural solutions to pain out there. We just need to keep turning over those rocks and finding which one fits.
And that's all pain across the board, whether it is physical, like you went through, or emotional or mental, any kind of pain, it's out there to, to be worked on, to work through, and to come out the other side. It is possible. It really is. And just having, like you say, education is key.
Yeah, it really is. And I think one more point I was gonna say, what I want people to do is kind of open their eyes to and understand that like a lot of modern medicine now is driven by money, unfortunately. So whether it's these giant pharmaceutical companies or any of these other modalities where they make a lot of profit, I think people need to sit back and think, is this right for me? Or is this driven by money? Are these pharmaceutical companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars, do they care about my health and safety? Or do they just want to make money? And so unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. I mean, as I said, I was on painkillers for a long time, prescribed them, and it completely started to damage my mental psyche, my body. I mean, there's more overdoses and deaths from opioids in this country than we even talk about, but you don't see it much on the news. Thousands of people dying. So my whole point is, when you're in pain, have hope. There are natural sources, and maybe it's not CBD, and that's fine, but there's natural ways that you can start to get momentum and start to feel better. And you just have to study, you have to listen to podcasts, and you have to listen to your gut. So sorry, I'm going on a little rant there, but I'm passionate about it.
That's why this show, is here. It's so that people can learn more. They can experience different techniques, modalities that are healthier, that are going to really help to address the issue at root level. And they're not just going to keep putting the plaster and the Band-Aid on and just, like you say, just numbing out everything that really needs to be treated at that much deeper level. You have to go inside, you have to look back to nature and what nature can teach us, what it can bring to us, and how it can help heal us, and the mindset and everything else as well. So I think that's phenomenal. I think you have such an incredible, ethos, your work ethic, just your mindset. It's just so inspiring. And obviously the products speak for themselves. You have incredible people working with them. You have so many people supporting you and behind you with them. And have fun, baby. I mean,
yeah, have fun. No, I love it. That's my motto. If I ever get a tattoo, maybe that's what it'll be. Have fun, baby. Yeah. Just have fun. We got to laugh more, right?
You really do. And it's hard sometimes, but you have to, it's like a muscle. You have to train it. You've got to train yourself to wake up and think positively. Sometimes you have to train yourself to wake up and say, today is going to be a good day. Something wonderful is going to happen today. Something good is out there for me. You have to look for it. You have to be ready for it. And so, working on the mindset, working on the nervous system, working on reducing the pain and the inflammation, because when you're in pain, it's difficult to see that positive side of it. And so I'm so grateful for you sharing all of this with us today. And, people can find you, My Soul CBD or My Soul CBD, I forget which one it is.
Yeah, mysoulcbd.com or at mysoulcbd. And then,
people can find you, they can reach out, they can be part of this community, and they can learn more, become more educated, and start to really, use this as part of their own healing journey moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly hope that you enjoyed the show, and there is at least one thing that you can take away from today's episode that will help you build that sustainable healing toolkit. It would mean the absolute world to me if you would subscribe to the show, give it a 5-star review, and share this or any of the other episodes with somebody that you feel could really benefit by listening. I look forward to seeing you next time.